Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Out in Front. I am Shelby Swartz, the Executive Director for Battleborn Progress. Tonight, we are discussing the recent decision out of Alabama from the Alabama Supreme Court that deemed that embryos used in IVF, in vitro fertilization procedures, were legally children. This was completely bonkers. We are here with some fantastic hosts, fantastic guests to discuss this decision and what can be done here in Nevada to protect our reproductive freedoms. I am joined by Cassie Charles, the Deputy Campaign Manager and Political Director for the Nevadans for Reproductive Freedom ballot measure. Cassie, we're very excited to have you. I'm also joined by Alexa Solis, the Deputy Director of Planned Parenthood Votes Nevada. I am joined by my very own Deputy Director, Paula Luna. And then we have a very special guest from yesterday, Congresswoman Susie Lee, who shared her personal story about experiencing infertility and utilizing IVF to form her family. We went ahead and taped a segment with her. Obviously, she is very busy fighting for us in Washington, D.C., passing really crucial bills. And she was unable to join us live, but we did get a chance to chat with her yesterday. And I'm going to go ahead and have Brian on my team roll that tape.
Next week.
Yeah, fingers crossed everything goes. Well, thank you so much for all of your hard work out in DC. Obviously, we wanted to include you in this very important conversation about the IVF decision out of Alabama and what it means for reproductive rights at large. So can you go ahead and give us a little bit of a breakdown about what this decision means and what its implications could be for families seeking fertility treatments?
Well, listen, first and foremost, I've always, as a mother of two children who are the result of IVF and having gone through multiple unsuccessful rounds of IVF, I've always had this fear in the back of my head that pro-lifers were coming after IVF treatments. And so when the Alabama Supreme Court made their ruling, I was like, well, we knew this was coming. And, when Roe v. Wade went down, we told people, get ready because they're coming after IVF, and get ready because they're coming after contraception. And so to me, this was just a result of that march for far right extremists, anti-choice. But more importantly, we've already, we saw the impact it had in Alabama when a third of the IVF clinics immediately shut their doors. And obviously, Alabama has since passed legislation to basically just legally protect the clinics. It doesn't protect per se access to IVF. But we have a piece of legislation, which I think we're going to talk about later. But, for me, I just say to women in Nevada, women across this country to wake up, because this is all about control of our bodies and control of our healthcare options. And infertility is an illness. It's an illness that I suffered from, and IVF is a treatment. IVF is also used for, cancer victim, women who have cancer, including my niece. It's used in a variety of ways, and having access to this is basically giving women control over their bodies and their healthcare choices. And so, I don't want anyone in Nevada to ever think that we're okay, because we know that there are tools in the toolbox, and far right extremists are going to go through every effort they can to make sure they restrict our choices.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the work that you and your fellow House Democrats in DC are doing to protect IVF at the national level. I know there's the Access to Family Building Act to address these threats. Can you talk a little bit about what that bill does and the measures that you're taking to make sure that that gets through the door?
Absolutely. So, first, I just want to be clear that, as soon as the Alabama decision came down, Republicans and far right Republicans, it was like someone hit a hornet's nest with a baseball bat, and they all started buzzing around. Oh, we support IVF. We support IVF. It's like, well, if you support IVF so much, then please sign on as a co-sponsor to the Access to Family Building Act, which was introduced by my good friend Susan Wild in the House, Tammy Duckworth in the Senate, introduced and tried to get a companion bill brought to the floor of the Senate on unanimous consent, only to be stopped by Senator Hyde Smith. And so, the Access to Family Building Act just establishes a statutory right for individuals to access without any interference or limitation assisted reproductive technology, of which IVF is one option. And it also to establish an individual's statutory right regarding the use or disposition of their genetic materials. And, I think that sort of was at the center of the Alabama ruling, and it allows the Department of Justice to pursue action against any state or official who violates these protections. And so I think this is an important piece of legislation. I feel that any Republican who says we support IVF should be signing on to that. Instead, what we've seen are these non-binding resolutions so that they can take political cover and say, oh, yes, we support IVF. Well, if you really truly believe that women should have a right and families should have a right to pursue and build a family, when they then sign on to the bill. And so far, only one Republican has signed on to the bill.
So they're trying to talk the talk, but not following it up.
Absolutely.
What else is new? Well, I just have one more question for you. I know you shared your personal story about using IVF to build your family. What do you think women in Nevada or people in Nevada need to be thinking about to protect their reproductive rights moving forward? And how do you want to continue advocating for the protection and access to fertility treatments, to reproductive freedom, abortion rights, birth control, what have you?
Well, listen, first and foremost, we know in Nevada we have protected access to abortion, but we know that we need to go one step further and have a constitutional amendment, which we know there's an effort underway to collect the signatures. So I say to women, sign the petition, get out there and make sure people sign the petition. And let's not stop until we have a constitutional protection in Nevada. But the bottom line is, we all know that we can do, everything we want statewide. We need to continue to focus across the country in electing pro-choice members of Congress as well, because, far-right anti-abortion extremists are going to go through everything they can until they get a national abortion ban. And we know that that's on the line. The other thing, the impact in Nevada that's so important is when you start to see, we already know we suffer from a healthcare shortage, healthcare provider shortage, especially when it comes to OBGYNs. And when you start to see these attacks on IVF, on abortion, as a doctor, you're losing a tool in your toolbox when you're treating a woman to not be able to have this option. And so what we're seeing are fewer people wanting to become OBGYNs. And we're also seeing in Nevada that the OBGYNs we do have are under, incredibly increased demand, because people from other states are coming in, making longer wait times, which, by the way, limits people's access to reproductive care when you are delayed in getting the type of care you need. And so, I say, don't just think about Nevada, think about the entire country, and, and think about the states that are restricting it. But more importantly, remember that a federal abortion ban trumps what happens in Nevada. So make sure that you're doing your part to, one, elect your pro-choice members of Congress in Nevada, but to the extent you have time to help outside of Nevada, certainly make sure you're doing that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yes, we all need to support the ballot initiative and make sure we are showing up at the ballot box to support pro-choice candidates. So thank you so much, Congresswoman, for joining us. Thank you for sharing your story as well and your experience with IVF. It's so important to hear those personal stories to know what we're fighting for. So thank you so much for joining us. All right. Thank you so much again to the Congresswoman. It was amazing to chat with you and to be able to, there we go. And to be able to hear about her experience utilizing IVF to grow her family. So now I'm going to go ahead and bring in our other panelists tonight. We are joined, like I mentioned, by Cassie Charles from the Nevadans for Reproductive Freedom Ballot Initiative. Cassie, how you doing?
Hey, I am doing well. Thank you so much for having me on today.
Of course. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a question for you. And then, Alexa, I'm going to come to you. And then, Paula from our team, I will have you bring up the rear. And then we'll just kind of go round robin like that. But as always, if you want to go ahead and chime in anywhere, feel free to do so. So, Cassie, can you provide some background on the ballot initiative and the importance that it has in our state and for our reproductive freedoms here in Nevada?
Yeah, of course. So the Nevadans for Reproductive Freedom is a statewide ballot measure to codify access to abortion in our state constitution. And this originally started as legislation last year. I know many people were involved and fighting for that throughout the legislative session. And it was a very big peak and highlight for us last year as well. And we could not be more excited to have it on the ballot this year and really take the energy that we have seen and funnel it into the enormous amount of work that we have to do to protect access to reproductive freedom this year. And so we kicked off our campaign a couple weeks ago at CSN Charleston with 130 of our friends, supporters, Nevadans. And since then, we have been doing almost daily petition canvases with our paid team, collecting signatures every single day. And we are very, very excited and proud to say that we passed 50,000 signatures today. So the campaign is going great, and could not be more excited to be here and doing this work with you all.
That is amazing. Like I told you before we went live, I signed outside of my library the other day, so I was very excited about that. I was able to get my husband to sign and some friends that we were with, so it was like we all went ahead and jumped on the bandwagon and signed the petition. So very excited about it. Alexa, I'm going to come to you to also give kind of an overview of the work that Planned Parenthood is doing right now in the state, and how y'all have also been fighting for our reproductive freedoms.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So Planned Parenthood Votes Nevada is an issue advocacy organization. Our focus is on improving equitable access to affordable, high-quality reproductive health care, and continuing to protect abortion rights in the state of Nevada through education, as well as legislative and electoral advocacy. Like Cassie mentioned, we were helping with the legislative effort to codify reproductive rights into our state constitution, but we've also done legislation for, improved access to Medicaid for mothers and all sorts of cool things. So overall, we're just always working through legislative and electoral advocacy to make sure that Nevadans have equitable access to healthcare.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you so much for the work that you do. And you too, Cassie. Alexa, I'm going to ask you just kind of a piggyback question, and then I'm going to go to Paula. What are y'all hearing at Planned Parenthood about the IVF decision? What is Planned Parenthood nationally saying about it? What are you thinking about it? What are folks here seeming like they're concerned about?
Yeah, so kind of a lot of what the Congresswoman was saying about how this decision shows how far anti-abortion politicians and judges are going to go after reproductive health care, not just abortion, since the fall of Roe v. Wade is really important. I think we're thinking a lot about how this demonstrates the breadth of the anti-abortion movement, where they're going, where they want to take the country, and how we have to fight that here in Nevada and across the rest of the country as well. So at Planned Parenthood Votes Nevada, we're working really hard to make sure that Nevadans see the connections between the attacks on abortion and IVF, and are motivated to continue to shore up reproductive health care in our state moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, we're all here. There we go. Paula, I'm going to come to you next as my deputy director, my emotional support, Paula. Paula actually is a superhero. She drove her mom to a doctor's appointment in California, came back, got on her laptop, and I asked her to hop on OIF, and she was down to do so. So thank you for joining us. Paula, can you talk a little bit about the work that we do here at BBP to protect and advance abortion access and reproductive freedom? And then can you just talk a little bit, I just had Elliot back in September, and we've had many conversations about how that's just not something you want to do. So what does the IVF decision and reproductive care decisions that we're seeing across the country and here in Nevada, what do those mean to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks. I love joining whenever I can. And and also I really love the work Cassie does, the work Alexa does. So of course I would be happy to jump on with them anytime. As far as, Battleborn Progress, for those watching at home, we reproductive justice, abortion access, that is, one of our key issue areas, and all of the many issue areas that kind of intersect with it. So we are so proud to support Nevadans for reproductive justice, because it's an issue that, we've always fought for here at Battleborn Progress, and love to support. Kind of on that personal note, that second question, I think the attack on IVF, especially the continuing attacks on abortion access, makes it a really wide, makes everybody a target, right? Like, this just shows how far and wide they're going to kind of squash our rights as people, on the decisions we make, on how we make our families, on the fact that we don't make families, which is why it's so important for us to get these kind of measures and legislation passed, things secured in our Constitution, because at the end of the day, it's my choice. If I wanted to have an abortion, it is my choice. If that I choose not to have with my husband, not to have children, and it's a choice for anybody else if they want to start their family and how that looks. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we love our Tia Paula, but I know that for you it's Baloo and Bellatrix and your babies. So
yeah, I do love being a Tia, and that's Aunt for anybody who doesn't speak Spanish. I feel like I'm very good at it. So yeah, give me all of your children, I will be their aunt. I just don't want any of my own.
Yes, no, and Elliot loves you, and every time we're on a meeting, he just lights up when he sees your face. So, or hears your voice, according to your husband. Okay, Cassie, I'm going to bring it back to you. Since launching the ballot initiative, there has obviously been this IVF decision out of Alabama. What have y'all heard folks hearing about the decision, and how does the ballot initiative kind of tie into the IVF decision out of Alabama, in that it, provides space for folks to make their own reproductive decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. When thinking about the Alabama IVF decision, especially from a Nevadan perspective, one of my favorite things always to reflect on is that, one of my favorite things about Nevadans is that we immediately take our fear and our anger and translate that into action. And so what that looks like on our campaign is that, we are actively seeing people motivated and energized and really taking this issue to heart, and funneling that into our campaign. Reaching out, talking to their neighbors, their friends about access to abortion, and really emphasizing the importance, because of course we are seeing what's happening nationally. Yes, this happened in Alabama, which is geographically pretty far away, but it could be our next door neighbors. That could be Nevada in several years. And so they're taking this anger and this fear and really translating it into action to protect access to abortion. Because that is the first step of this campaign, or the first step in protecting access to reproductive freedom is what we are doing on this campaign, which is protecting access to abortion and codifying it into our state constitution. Because as Alexa mentioned earlier, we are really working to make sure people see that correlation, that attacks on IVF, attacks on birth control, attacks on all of these things are attacks on reproductive freedom. And like the Congresswoman said, attempts to control people's bodies at the end of the day. And as we are fighting out in the community, we know that that is something that Nevadans will always stand up against. So what we are seeing on the campaign is, people bringing their energy here and taking that first step with us to use that anger, use that fear, and put it into action.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'm like fired up over here. Alexa, I'm going to come back to you. What changes in policy or legislation would you like to see to protect and promote reproductive justice, either here in the state of Nevada? We have a legislative session coming up in 2025, and hopefully we'll have a supermajority so that we can just get rid of Lombardo and his veto happy pen, or nationwide.
Yeah. So, earlier I had mentioned that at Planned Parenthood Votes Nevada, we have a focus on improved equitable access to reproductive health care. And this is a huge part of it. Anyone who struggled with infertility can tell you that IVF is very expensive. And at Planned Parenthood Votes Nevada, we envision a world where IVF is protected, but it's also affordable. Infertility is a reality for a lot of couples, and it doesn't discriminate based on income. And we would really like to see policy solutions that address affordability and accessibility, so people who want to get pregnant can. And that's, I think, how we pursue reproductive justice in the context of fertility treatments.
Definitely. It is so expensive. I'm in, all my mommy groups now, in this mom era. And it's insane how much some of these couples shell out to be able to start a family, especially, if insurance doesn't cover it. I know it's very rare that insurance will cover a lot of IVF costs. So that would be incredible to see. Paula, I'm going to come back to you. We were obviously up during the legislative session a few times in 2023, and we were there for to support SJR7 and Senator Nicole Cannizzaro and all of the hard work that she put into expanding abortion access this last session. And I know we'll see that again this coming session. Just have to, get past this election first. But what was that like for you to be up in Carson, giving testimony on SJR7, working to expand abortion access up in Carson? And similar to the question that I asked Alexa, what would you like to see in the next legislative session?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it was great. Whenever there's an opportunity, we have to take every opportunity we can, right, to protect reproductive justice, to protect abortion access, now to protect IVF, apparently. But as far as being up there last legislative session and being able to testify to pass SRJ7, I think I said that right. It's been a long day. I think a lot of people thought that, and even with this referendum, like, people often think like, oh, it's going to be fine in Nevada. And I think all of these attacks, all of the extremes that they're going with, like even IVF now, shows that it's never enough. We never stop fighting until it's 100% secure. And then we have to keep fighting to make sure it stays secure. So I definitely think next legislative session, I'm glad last legislative session we were there to do that. I'm glad that we have this ballot initiative now. And I think next legislative session, I think definitely IVF, if they're going to keep coming for that. Anything else that we can, that falls under kind of that healthcare access, reproductive access, we need to make sure that we're protecting. So I feel like I could speak for BBP when I say that we will be on board to support whatever bills come across that will do just that.
Definitely. And like I said, if we get that supermajority, the sky's the limit. We will make sure that we are, helping to pass every bill that we can around reproductive freedom and reproductive justice. Alexa, I'm going to come back to you because I don't know if Cassie's video is there. I can't see it right now. So Alexa, I'm going to come to you. Can you talk about what impacts do you see on the residents of Nevada with the news that we saw out of Alabama? I know we've talked about, the ballot initiative and the legislation that you would like to see. But is there a universe in which a decision like the one out of Alabama could impact people here at home?
The short answer is yes. I think something that this does for Nevadans in the immediate term is that it's very shocking. It's very illuminating as to what the anti-abortion politicians and judges are actually angling for. Additionally, right now, I think this decision out of Alabama has a lot of people concerned about accessing IVF and what implications it has on like the storage of embryos and eggs and all those kinds of like logistical things that go into healthcare. And Nevada has several large facilities for embryo storage, and it's really too early to tell what this means for IVF as a whole. But what we do know is that we currently live in a world where people travel to Nevada to access abortion care, which is illegal in other places. So if there were more rulings or legislation or other actions that would take us in the direction of this Alabama decision, you could see a world in which people are once again forced to travel for care that they should be able to get in their home state, and they would be coming to states like Nevada. So yeah, it's true. It seems far off, but the overturning of Roe v. Wade seemed far off too, and that happened. So I think we should be really practical and pragmatic when we're thinking about these issues.
Yeah, 1000%. Thank you so much for that sobering response. I'm going to try to come to Cassie. I don't know if I can see your video, but can folks see her? I can't see her. No. All right. Well, Paula, I'm going to come back to you. We have a question from Sharon in the Facebook chat. She says, what I find is that anti-women's rights zealots do is let's move that off the screen, Brian, because it covered up Paula's whole face. Is to remove the power of the people, the women, and replace them with religious shills. Can you see political strategies to connect women as a whole, to connect them to power and being able to make decisions for themselves?
Yeah. So I did not come up with this. I was actually in a meeting with a group of women. We were completely talking about something different, but I think it really resonates with as far as like strategy is like we need to remember that like this affects everybody, right? And when we think that maybe we're not the ones affected and we don't stand shoulder to shoulder, we're like kind of leaving other people behind. We're leaving them stuck, stranded with less power than when we all stand together, right? But it's very clearly, I think, to see that the strategy is that we're here, we want our rights, they can't take them, no matter what that looks like as far as like whatever right it is, because they're coming for all of them apparently. So we get to support each other, we get to stand with each other, and I think keeping that in mind is always a good strategy, right? Like that's why we fight every day to protect reproductive justice, to protect everything that they're coming for.
Definitely. And in that same sense, I think, a lot of the time, folks in progressive spaces tend to write the South off, right, as just kind of a lost cause. And that's just not the case, right? There's really progressive folks, really good folks in the South that have been, gerrymandered out of power or just maybe feel hopeless. And it's not our decision to leave them behind. We have to do whatever we can at home and, at the ballot box, about national elections as well, to make sure that we can protect their rights as much as we can from afar, right? And ensure that we are lifting them up while we're protecting ourselves and our rights as well. So thank you for that. That was a really powerful answer. Thank you. Cassie, now that you're back, I'm sorry about your Wi-Fi issues. I'm going to come back to you and ask, how can we raise awareness about reproductive justice issues, especially in light of this IVF ruling? I know right now you're with the ballot initiative, but you've been in this work for years. You've been around these issues, in past roles. So I want to ask, how can we make sure that we're raising awareness either, by talking to our neighbors or in other ways?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for bearing with me. I'm now coming at you from my phone. Like as you've mentioned, I'm on the ballot measure now, but I did start off this work as an organizer with Planned Parenthood and here in Las Vegas. And something that we always recognize as organizers is the power of your own story and the power of your own connection to the people in your network. And so the most powerful thing you can do to raise awareness about reproductive justice, about reproductive freedom, rights, health, is to have bold conversations and really naming abortion stigma as well. Working on your own stigmas internally and talking about those with your friends and family. As we were launching our petition campaign, we were talking with our petitioners and talking about all of the various different ways that abortion stigma shows up in our language and in our life, with our family members, with our community members, and just how the first step in that is recognizing it so that we can move forward as a society into a truly space protecting access to reproductive freedom. And so the most powerful thing you can do is have those bold, have those brave conversations. Because I know that I can talk to your cousin and make movement here, but who will make the most movement there is you. So having those conversations very intentionally early on, because you will see this on the ballot in November, and you want to make sure that all of your friends and all of your family members are voting in favor.
Awesome. No, we love a relational organizing moment. So thank you for sharing that. I'm actually going to stick with you, and we're going to do kind of a round robin of how folks can get involved with the work that you do. How can folks find a place to sign the petition? How can people get involved if they want to help collect signatures? What's the entire scope of how folks can go ahead and get involved with your work?
There are so many ways that you can get involved. First and foremost, you can go to our website, which is nvforreprofreedom.org. But also, we're a pretty robust coalition full of organizations that you probably already interact with. So if any of the organizations that you work with currently in the community are doing petition drives, I highly encourage you to get involved with them. That's Plan Action, Make the Road Action, Make It Work, Battle-Born Progress. We have a very robust coalition, and if you've already got that connection, definitely tap in with them because they're likely hosting a petition drive here soon. But you can also sign up to volunteer with us directly through our website and through all of our social media channels.
Awesome. And can you remind people just really quick what the ultimate goal is? I know you mentioned we're at 50,000. Can you clue people into like the full scope of how many signatures are needed?
Yes. So we need just over 102,000 petition signatures by June 26th. So as that is, that deadline is closely coming. While we are on a very good track at the moment, we definitely need everybody out there talking about the ballot measure, getting involved and signing the petition to help keep us on track towards success.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So you heard Cassie. If you want to get involved, go to that website. If you see folks out with their clipboards, signed at the library, at the grocery store, make sure you get your name down and have the people that you're with at the time sign as well. I'm going to come to you again. Can you let folks how they can get involved with Planned Parenthood? Obviously, Planned Parenthood does so much around reproductive health, reproductive freedom, not just abortion services. There's so much that y'all do that your clinics provide as well. Can you go ahead and let people know how they can get involved?
Yeah, so if you want to get involved with Planned Parenthood advocacy, we highly, highly, highly recommend you go to our website and sign the volunteer form. Additionally, like Cassie was saying, if you have a reproductive healthcare story and you want to get involved in telling that story, whether it's to your legislators or to your neighbors, or at a protest, or however you want to tell your story, we do have a newly launched storyteller program. There's also a sign-up link on our website. I believe it's ppvotesnv.org. And that's a great way to get involved. There are trainings and resources because we know that it can be, especially if it's your first time, telling your abortion story is very, very powerful and can also be a little bit nerve-wracking. So we have lots of resources and trainings for folks if that's something you're interested in. And just in general, you can follow us on our social media, PP Votes Nevada, on Instagram, Twitter. I think now it's called X, and anywhere else there's social. So.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I saw somebody calling it Elon Musk's Twitter, and I have started to use that because I refuse to call it X. I know everybody refuses to call it X, but I especially refuse. Paula, I'm going to come to you. I mean, this is a really obvious one. If they're already watching OIF, they're already on our pages, but how can people get involved with Battle-Born Progress and talk a little bit about the Megaphone program while you're at it?
Yes. I don't know if y'all know, but Shelby and I literally finish each other's sentences because I was just about to say, you are already at the right place at the right time watching OIF so we can keep y'all informed. But very excited to let you all know that you all could be our digital warriors on our Megaphone program. So please reach out to us. You can reach out to our lead digital organizer, Brian, that's B. Harris at battlebornprogress.org. Our Megaphone program manager, Zach, and that's Zach, Z-A-C-H, at battlebornprogress.org. And, or if you know our two other very cool organizers, Alan and Anwar, you can also reach out to them and get involved in our Megaphone program. It is digital organizing. We want to set you all up with the right kind of information, super cute graphics, full of information for you all to share so that the people in your all circles can see it and then they can share. And then we are all spreading the love, letting people know where we stand on our issues, letting them get informed, and helping you all get your people informed too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And our team is going to go ahead. We are having an orientation next Thursday at 5 p.m., I believe, where folks can come and learn more about Megaphone. Like Paula mentioned, it's a great program. And we have a great team of organizers working to get everybody involved. It's a way for you this election season, or just in general, not tied to the election, to be able to access really cute, adorable graphics and share your points of view with the folks on your own social media page. So go ahead and register for that orientation. Thank you all so much for joining us. Cassie, any last thoughts?
No last thoughts for me. I'm very excited to be here, and thank you to our friends at Battle-Born Progress for being great coalition partners. We always love the partnership in this work. And shout out to all of our other coalition partners out there watching.
Yes, thank you so much. And yes, shout out to all the partners, including Planned Parenthood Votes Nevada. Alexa, anything you want to add that maybe we didn't get to?
Ditto. Thank you so much for having us. And thanks to everyone who's watching and getting involved. And if you've been on the fence about getting involved, now's the time. So my only last plug is to register to volunteer with Nevadans for Reproductive Freedom, register to volunteer with Planned Parenthood Votes Nevada, and get involved in the Megaphone program to start sharing the message on social.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Paula, anything you want to add? You did such a great job summing up our programs.
Just thank you for the last minute invite. I love listening to Alexa and Cassie. I love, being part of this. So I love the last minute ad. So thank you for having us, and thank you for everybody watching and listening, and hoping y'all get involved.
Yes. All right. Thank you all so much. Try to wrap it up a little bit early so people can go and eat some dinner and not have to sit around till 6 p.m. So go ahead, sign up for the Megaphone orientation, and we will see y'all next time.